Hello.
We said we were going to be late, but actually...
Have we said it? Did we actually post?
I put it in the group.
Oh, right. It's not that bad, is it?
We had guests around.
We did have guests, didn't we?
Yeah.
And normally, slick as anything, our kids are asleep by 7 because of the way we are. And then that gives us sort of an hour to faff, tidy up, get ready for this. However, our guest didn't leave till 7:35, which is absolutely fine, not a problem at all.
All 3 kids are asleep.
Oh God, you've jinxed it now, haven't you?
All 3 kids are asleep in 25 minutes.
Yeah, but we were helped by the fact they're shattered. They are, I think, as no one's currently watching, we might as well do that. Yeah, as these summer holidays progress, and they spend days with grandparents and days with us and days out, and I think they're getting more and more tired. And we may rejoice in that our kids are asleep by 7, but regardless of when they go to bed, they are. Hi Hannah. They normally wake up at 10 to 6. So we will see in the morning. And this isn't even late night. I'm sitting there thinking, look at my eyes. I'm sitting there thinking the kids have had a late night. 7:30 is not a late night. No, not in kid world. Anyway,
we hope you're all well this week. Whatever you've been doing, enjoying the sun, which is relentless still. It's a bit chilly this evening. I actually got a jumper on.
Well, the whole day was a bit chilly. I'm off the edge, but if I do that, you can see the toys off to the. We have an old bike.
Forgive people for seeing.
I moved it. I don't think I've ever moved it before. There we go. So tonight we were going to discuss alcohol, and we wanted to get Josh on from Jack Bars, but before I contacted him, I noticed he was on holiday. So Josh, you're probably not watching this, but when you get back off holiday, we need to book you in. And what I think we're going to do is, whether he can come round if he wants,
we can do a share,
or we can do a screen share and he can do it from home. So we're going to get Josh round from Jack Bars. We quite like Josh, don't we?
Right.
He's a nice guy, and he's on one of the Baylily meets. I might share that into the group, the Baylily meets. Yeah, we did a series called Baylily Meets where we talked to lots of different suppliers, and they gave us their expertise. They're quite long. They're as long as Ask an Expert, but quite a lot of content in them.
But you can pick and choose what you want to listen to in it, so you can fast forward it. It's the beauty of YouTube. You can not have to watch the entire thing if you don't want to. Never going to say no to watching the entire.
I thought you were going to say they're never going to give you up. Never going to give you up.
Oh gosh, we've become that couple.
No, we have become that couple. What else was I going to say?
So it's been a great week.
It's been a fab week, and it's been quite busy on the pages and groups today.
We seem to have been quite busy putting all this fire safety stuff in the group this week, which I'm going to bring up again because I can't.
It is so important, but I can't help thinking you're a right geek, but it is so important.
It's so important because there are a few other things that I thought about after doing the lives. We did an Instagram live, and we did.
Where were we at the weekend?
We were at Godalming.
Oh, what, Hidden Valley? Oh, was that only this weekend?
I know, right?
Blimey. I thought it was like a month ago.
Hannah put a blog post on our Baylily site this week about it, and I also did a little post in this group as well as just a start to think about what you need to do on your day if you're having a really dry site, because
it is really important.
I cannot stress enough how golden yellow the ground was this weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, where we were, well, you saw the picture.
We had sandstone tents, and I swear they just melded into the grass.
It could have been. I mean, you said the Med, and I'm thinking Tuscany. Is Tuscany classed as the Med? It goes on. No. Geography, not my strong point. Well, actually,
really,
geography,
really dry, and we
dry.
talked about things like: do you need to have candles? Do you really need to have tapers and citronella?
Actually, it was the candle conversation that kind of caught me off guard. Now, I see candles as a staple of getting married, but you don't need them. No. Candles are almost old hat. They are absolutely lovely if you're indoors. Yeah. If you are outdoors, they're actually a pain in the bottom.
Well, they don't stay lit.
They don't stay lit. Someone's got to light them. Yeah. You know, and especially when
battery powered. Battery powered the way forward.
Solar powered, or solar powered.
Yes.
That's what we're promoting.
But also, it was the flags in that conversation piece were smokers. If you have smokers, don't be nice to them. Pen them in somewhere. Make sure that they are in a specific designated smoking zone. Pen it off with string, bunting, ribbon, whatever, but make sure that they are smoking. If it's like it has been, all it would take would be one spark from one cigarette end, and that would be a bit of a game changer for your event. But the other thing that we were talking about to the bride, actually, Lauren she flagged up, it was a really good one, is that obviously this year the geometric dome, geometrics and dendral shapes and the terrariums and all that kind of stuff have been really popular on tables, and the glass.
It's freezing. That brings.
It's really cold, isn't it? Yeah. But glass on your tables, especially if you are you've got sides open in your marquee and things like that. You've all seen magnifying glasses and ants when you put them on the grass, and it causes that light refraction down. And
or in Toy Story when he does it on a toy.
Oh, Woody's head.
Oh yeah, Woody's head. I thought it was one of the soldiers.
But things like if you're having any kind of glassware on your tables, make sure that they're not left unattended for any amount of time. Make sure there's someone on site with it, because all it would take would be for the sunlight to come through one vase or terrarium or water glass onto the grass, and it's exactly the same situation. So it's just really not trying to scaremonger you into making sure you're like fire marshal and hat and extinguishers and stuff. It's just making you aware of choices you make and how you can combat things like fire, because literally it would be the worst thing ever. You put all that time and effort into planning your day, and you really don't want it to burn to the ground in a big crispy fire and ruin your day, really.
Yes.
Anything else, Alan?
A couple of things from on that particular thing.
No, just generally.
Yeah, so we put a video in of short drone footage of the wedding this weekend, which we thought looked brilliant. So please go and have a look at it. What else was I going to say? Oh, I also put a post up about quite a few of you have all now married.
Yeah.
I don't know if you still watch this after you're married.
It's nice if you're still here.
Yeah, in my head you do. In my head, I was telling our guest, this is our little TV show. I feel like we're Ant and Dec or something like that.
We're always on the same side. I noticed this week.
With our viewership of 1 this evening.
Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Hannah. Don't leave. It'll be 0. But no, I do feel like that. But what was the point? Oh, right. So I put a post in the group about some of you are now married. So, is there anything you didn't plan for? Something you want to share? A pearl of wisdom? Something like that. And actually, I thought there were a couple of good answers. So let me just bring them up. So Gemma put, simple one actually, make sure there are some bubbles. I presume she means champagne and not kids blowing bubbles for the bride in the morning. I never had any, just ended up sorting everyone and everything out, big regret, and be selfish, it's your day. That's really important, right? Because we all spend so long making sure our guests are happy and everything is right, but you forget to enjoy it yourself, or you can forget to enjoy it yourself. So yeah, absolutely. And I shared a story how when we had our wedding, I suddenly was feeling really, really sober. So I went behind the bar, grabbed a few bottles of the champagne and put them out the way for me, Emily, best man, people like that. Well, me and the best man, if I'm honest. I just included Emily. And one of the guests must have seen us done it. Seen us do it, and then gone and got my supply and basically, quaffed it
had
all.
A happy old party.
And had a happy old party. So
it's
when we
true
were back,
though. You don't forget to drink. You're so wrapped up in your day and saying hello to great aunt whoever and dancing over there and having a photo over there that actually you can be pretty darn sober by then, because you've not had a glass, or you've been given a glass and then you've gone and been torn that way and you put your glass down on the table and walked away, and all of a sudden you haven't had. So actually getting a bottle of bubbly for you to have a moment, if you've gone over for some private photographs. Hi Ian, how are you?
Hi Ian
you sat
and
together,
Hannah.
you and Hannah, or are you separate at the moment?
But on the flip side, it's not even just alcohol, is it? It's as simple as water. Remembering to have some
make sure
water,
you're drinking on the
remembering
day.
to eat, etc., etc.
But really, if you're having any time from couples photos, grabbing a couple of glasses and a bottle of bubbly and having some time away is a really good thing, because number one, you've paid for this.
Yeah.
Make sure you enjoy it, and number two, just have that time to really enjoy each other and reflect on the fact that you've got a massive party behind, having a great time, drinking your booze.
Other things, Louise Young, but everything takes longer than you think it will.
Yep.
It's so true. Her particular example was they had to set up on the day of the wedding, and when they were still setting up, or I don't like getting things wrong, do I? Always, but halfway through setting up, her makeup and MUA, makeup and hair, makeup artist arrived, and she had to leave her husband to carry on setting it up, and then it was all a bit of a rush.
Some venues are like that, and again, it all depends on where you're going, what kind of thing you're having. But I know of a venue just down the road from us that won't allow you. You can't actually set up the day before. That's the barn, Titchfield.
Oh, yes.
It's a grade 2 listed barn they have. It's a big open frontage. It's a really nice site. But because it's a listed building and it's run by a charity and they haven't done the roof works, there are big gaping holes in the ceiling, which in itself is, if it's raining at all the night before, your tables get wet. But number 2, they have bats and owls and stuff. So if you lay your tables out the day before, you get bat poo on your tables, and no one wants bat poo in their canapé. So they have to set up on the day of the wedding, which is a real problem because you want to enjoy your morning and get your hair done and all that.
It is one of those, isn't it? Like, you're having a big party. At the end of the day, you're having a big party, but actually you've got to set up and tidy up. So factor that in. If budget allows, get someone else.
Yeah.
We do this. We say this all the time. Get someone else to set up. If budget allows, it's your special day. Get someone else to set it up and get someone else to tidy it up.
If you're not so OCD that you have to have your tables exactly how, measuring it with a ruler, making sure that they're that distance from your knives and forks and whatever, lay one table out. If you have to be there on the day, and if you have to leave grooms, ushers and everything to do it as well because you've got to go and have your hair and makeup done, do one table, do it exactly how you want it, and say, this is what we want, replicated 8 times around the room, and make sure that they do it, use your example as their, hi Laura, hi, how are you?
Hi,
are you
Laura.
excited? A week to go.
A week to go. That is exciting.
It is.
It is
It's
exciting.
meant to be again warm next week, so happy days.
And then Hannah Richardson, wasn't Hannah one of the ones who had the dome? She was the first to have
Yes.
the dome. She brought the domes to our attention. Hannah put, we agree with above. We started at 2:30, so they started at 2:30. Just wish they had a bit longer because everything was a bit rushed. Then she's put a longer bit, and it says, "Excuse me, be prepared to let yous go a bit on the day. Let things go a bit on the day. If it's not quite as planned, it wasn't meant to be. Start early and be organised. We did place names in January and boxed them up. We bought the booze in a Sainsbury's 25% off and boxed it up, and they've got over half left. We did exactly the same. Tesco's periodically did a litre for £10. This is 6 years ago. So we bought it when it was on offer. Totally feel this was best. Try and speak to everyone. Keep it simple. We had one venue only, one place to decorate, one bridesmaid. She picked her own dress with guidelines. We did our own flowers. So much fun. Mum grew all the sweet peas. Sowed in November and survived Beast from the East. They were perfect. Rope friends and family to be involved with bits instead of presents. There's some really good bits in there.
One
guys
thing I
getting married.
would point at, and a lot of you are doing your own flowers, which is ace. Fantastic.
We've seen quite a bit about that recently. I find that quite interesting.
It was there was another group talking about this, so I'm just going to flag it up because it made sense to this group as well. Some had been given a quote for their flowers, and they had table centres and bouquets and buttonholes and all the whole kit and caboodle, but they had the quote back and it was far further out of their budget than they anticipated, so they wanted to do the opposite, buy the flowers in and do it the day of the wedding. That's fine and fantastic if that's what you want to do. Just be aware, like everyone said in that group, it takes time, and prioritise. If flowers are really important to you and they have to be just so, know that you may not get what's in season. You might have to be going down to the supermarkets and getting a lot of people do reduced flowers in Tesco's, and they get some amazing bouquets for quite a cheap amount of money. But it takes time to sit there. So the day before your wedding, you will be assembling. If you're not up for that because you're realising that actually your day is already escaping you, as people have said already, time just does escape you and you have to go and get makeup and nails and everything else, go back to a florist. And the thing you can do is, if you're going to a florist and you're given specifics, I want cornflowers and daisies and blah 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 and blah blah and blah blah, and you want this and that, they may not be able to do it because things like the flowers are out of season. They're going to have to buy them in. I had cornflowers in my bouquet that were Mayflowers. I thought, were they Mayflowers?
I had no idea.
In September, they were
I
out
couldn't
of
even
season,
tell you what
but
was
she
in your
managed to
flowers.
get them. Oh, cornflowers were in my mum's bouquet.
Oh,
so
of course. I remember.
Of course you did. So the specific things we wanted, but they managed to get. But if you're wanting specific details, that's often what drives the cost up. What the best thing you can do would be to go to your florist or a few florists to get some quotes with a guideline of what you want. Say, we would love to have 10 table centres, we'd love to have buttons, and just give them a broader range of let them have a bit more creative and flexibility to do what they want to do, because they actually might come up with something a bit cheaper for you because they can find flowers that are more in season. They might have they might have more different vases in stock that they already have that they have to buy in. A lot of people don't forget that they have to buy in long tapered vases. They might have to go and get jam jars. They might have to big vases. I'm so sorry.
Abusive relationship.
A lot of people want coloured glass and that kind of stuff, and
sorry.
that comes with a cost as well. So if you're a bit more flexible about what you want, just go with maybe a couple of Pinterest images going, this is the kind of thing I like. We have this much money, but what can you do in between? They may be able to come up with something
I think
in between.
I think that's really important. Like I'm a planner, OCD, whatever other stuff you want to throw at me, and I fall foul of walking in to see an expert and going, I want this, when actually what I should saying is, I'm trying to achieve this. What do you suggest? Because they're the expert. You know, it's like someone coming up and telling us about bell tents, isn't it? And it's like, yes, they may know a bit about bell tents, but ultimately that's our
and
business,
ultimately
isn't it?
as well, I mean, people always want the Pinterest board at a certain price. So what's it? It's the champagne package at the beer. At
the Buxford.
The Buxford, whatever it is.
Lambrusco price.
The Lambrusco price.
I love a bit of Lambrusco. Back in the day.
Oh, Lambrusco parties, happy days.
Lambrusco parties.
Anyway.
Well, no, we can go back to Laura. Laura says she's getting seriously nervous.
Oh, don't get nervous. You're marrying the love of your life, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully.
Otherwise, be nervous.
But going back to florists cost money because they are a skill, and it's easy to go, well, it's just a bunch of flowers put in a jar, but there's a lot of skill sometimes if they're very specific designs.
You know what? Here's no, it's not a good analogy. I was going to use IKEA as an analogy, like their cheap stuff and their expensive stuff. It's one of those things, isn't it? Like good flowers look amazing, but then a price comes with it. And then you may be able to do it yourself, or you might have friends who can do it yourself. Like we did a wedding a few weeks ago with Baylily Bell Tents, the one with the twin domes we talked about. And they had planned that it was in the parents' back garden. They'd planned the walk through the parents' rose garden.
Yeah.
But they spent like 3 years nurturing this rose garden and timing it so the heads came. You know, they were in bloom.
Like that. They had an April wedding, and they'd made sure that their tulips in their garden were grown, especially for the weddings. They were fully in bloom for the wedding, and it was beautiful because the colours were fantastic, and that itself was the decoration because it was the borders of the garden. You might not get in a farmer's field, but if you're having a garden type wedding, you can maybe think about things like that. Also, if you're in a farmer's field,
you could have corn. You know, if
but that's it. You don't have to have
a wheat sheaf.
You don't have to have flowers. You could have wheat. You could have. Oh, what's this?
Sorry, everyone. Keep going, Emily.
eBay announcements coming up. You can have
eBay
wheat.
item
You can
finishing
have
in 14
wheat and
minutes.
dried things. You could have herbs. You could go and have pots. A brilliant one to do is if you can't afford fresh flowers and have arrangements, go in and find potted plants and use them as arrangements and just decorate around them and make them a feature. Go with greenery. The wedding we had at the weekend, they didn't have flowers, they had eucalyptus everywhere, and it was stunning. You know, and the smell's amazing as well.
Sorry everyone, and BBC News notification.
Phone's on 5 today. Yeah. But they made the feature the greenery and the eucalyptus, which actually in itself, because the tables were so simple and it was all very botanical, and outside was so bare because it was so, it just really popped out with the green.
Neutral tones.
It was very yellow outside.
Yeah. Well, I got it wrong, didn't I? I called it a simple palette. Very wrong.
Simple palette.
No, I know. And someone said no, it's neutral tones.
Neutral tones.
Okay.
But be clever. If you can't afford the flowers that you want, what can you do to get the, and to be honest, it's getting the volume, and they see these amazing flower walls and the big chandeliers dropping down from marquees and stuff. That's a lot of flowers and a lot of work, especially that has to be done the day before the wedding, and that's a lot of on the spot. We can't do it weeks ahead, and it's at someone's time to build that, and a flower wall could take hours to put together. So really just think about, if you want to do it yourself, fantastic. Go to the flower market, go to the wholesalers, get all your stems, but just be prepared to have a massive team. And the other thing to think about is if you've got lots of people doing that, continuity. If you want to have things looking exactly the same, make sure that, again, you do your demonstration first. If you want your table centre in a certain way, put one together, show your bridesmaids, show your mother-in-law, whoever, and make sure that they are doing it exactly the same, because people aren't florists. They don't always know how to put things together and making sure your stems are certain
or they could be like me, and it doesn't matter how many times you show me. If I was trying to replicate your flower display, what I did would be rubbish.
Yeah. But it's not for everyone anyway. Some people are happy to have, I don't know, gypsphelia, or it's called baby's breath, all that kind of stuff. That can be just as effective and
baby's
lovely.
Breath. Joseph stinks in the morning. Oh, poor Joseph.
So yeah, that was flowers really.
Yes.
Anything else came up? Something else came up on the group this week.
There's been a bit going around, and we've put loads in, haven't we? Let me have a quick look. Quite a few. There were questions. Who put a question?
Someone put up about lighting outside.
Becca lighting. Her dad's a scaffolder. Thought of putting some vertical poles to string lights across the field, but not sure how to get the poles to stay upright. Well, if you get metal, like they do, like 3 metre shepherd's crooks, and like because they're solid metal, you bang them in about half a metre or so.
Yeah,
so then you have 2.5
metres in the
sticking
ground.
out.
The only thing to think about that as well is if you're doing any kind of festoon lights with the big bulbs, they're heavy. So make sure that you are, if you're going from the marquee outwards, like we had at the weekend, make sure you've got enough stakes in the ground for like every couple of metres or so to make sure that you get the nice swags rather than the big sags, because if you are wanting them high above head height, if you only have 1, 2, 3 or 4 poles going outwards, you're going to get sag, which means that they might be at head height. So get yourself enough stakes to make sure that you have distributed the weight across and you're not getting big swoops down and they're not in the way. Or go low level and just do it at waist height and getting that same lighting effect, because they're just as pretty at low level as they are at head height. You can get...
So, someone said something about Louise Young, actually.
It was amazing. Louise Young was really clever.
They bought a gazebo.
A gazebo frame.
They bought a gazebo and just put the frame up without the canvas. And then strung the lights along the frame.
It looks really
effective.
It looks really effective. And that's it. It's thinking about what the other end of the day is going to look like when the lights are dim. What's that effect? And your fairy lights, will look lovely in the twilight. They'll look lovely in the dark. It's just about how you're going to stagger that. But you can get shepherd's crooks. You can get them quite cheaply on eBay and Amazon. But you can also get designated festoon poles. They're a little bit more sturdy, they're a bit more scaffold like, but they have the slit in the top, so the wire sits in properly and is planted in that, rather than it being just hooked on and it might slip. But also you can get them if you can't get into the ground, or the ground's quite hard, might be quite hard at the moment, you can hire them quite easily. You can get the bars coming up, but they come in almost like cube shaped boxes, weighted, so you can have the stability of the pole upright, but they are in a cube weighted base, so that you can move them around as you want, but you don't have to worry about going into the ground. Things are, when you go into the ground, and it's the same with marquees and any other companies, is that you have to be very aware putting anything of any depth into the ground, stakes, big pegs and stuff like that. There are underlying cables. They usually say a CAT scanner for when you have big jobs. If there's any kind of cables underground or power lines, that kind of stuff.
Not a CAT scan. That's what happens in a hospital.
It's a CAT scan.
Okay. Where do we buy our lights from?
Lights for fun.
Sorry, I was just replying to the thread about the lights. Someone was asking about that.
But yeah, if you're putting anything deep into the ground, most of the time it's absolutely fine and you can probably get away with it. But if it's any like hefty poles and pegs, just be aware, are there any power lines in the area? And your landowner should know that beforehand if you were asked that question. Anything else, Adam?
No, I think that's it. I was just, it's a shame. I was reading through the thread, but I hadn't had a chance to read through it. It's a shame. Quite a few of the questions we also talk about and Ask an Expert, and there's a couple about power, etc. So I don't know. So sometimes it'd be nice if we had 500 people watching. Then I really would feel like we're Ant and Dec. But I think Ant and Dec have more than 500, don't they?
Which one's the one in rehab right now? You, me.
Ant 5.
No, but in this.
Ant's always on the left. Well, when you're watching, Ant's on the left. So that's me. I'm on the left, but I'm on the right because it's a reverse camera. I don't have a 5 head. You can't say that. That's victimisation.
Quite quick today.
Well, it is. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. Right. Long story short, I use the hairdryer more than Emily does. Our 3-year-old son Ben also uses the hairdryer. He broke the hairdryer.
No, he didn't. Alan broke it.
No, shut up. He broke it.
So
for a while, I had no hairdryer, but now I only bought another hairdryer. So Ben and I are now happy again.
I haven't actually used the hairdryer.
No, you didn't use the last one, did you?
No, it was bright pink before, and it used to be quite funny watching him powering his hair.
But then I don't
what's
use
Laura said?
Gyps, that's it. That is.
Gypsophilia.
That's all we have on our tables. Oh right, sorry Laurie, I get with you now. So yeah, no, it's very exciting.
Yeah. Gypsophilia is beautiful because it's a good almost like a filler flower for when you have it in bouquets, but actually big balls of gyp are amazing and they look really, really pretty and dainty.
I just think it's still the whole keep it simple stupid, isn't it? I mean, a massive kind of, well, look at the royal wedding, the flowers they had round the church entrance, I can't think, the archway, whatever, it looked beautiful, but that's a royal wedding. You know, when you're thinking about us normos getting married in a field or a forest or somewhere as equally as lovely, then a simpler, I think, is the way forward.
So that's us tonight.
That's it. Boom.
We have Alexis and Dean's wedding this weekend with Baylily Bell Tents. If you're in
Very
this group,
exciting.
have an amazing wedding. You're amazing. And then after that, I know for a fact because there are outside brides that are Baylily brides in here. Laura, we're coming for you.
She's watching.
Sylvie, we're coming for you. And
I don't know.
that's it next
you
week.
tell me.
We're
Yeah,
in
I
this
don't
group.
know.
We hope you're all looking forward to your last few days as single ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, the single lady.
Don't dare.
I did it. I did it.
We are looking forward to seeing you and seeing what you're doing with your space as well. So from us, thank you very much.
Thank you ever so much. Have a look. Once again, though, is the weather or the light going to beat us?
It's
It could be the
dark.
weather.
It's dark.
See you next week, Laura. Thank you very much. And you, Hannah and Ian.
Bye, I'm waving.
Bye through you.
See you later. Bye.
Goodbye now.
Bye. I'm waving.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.